Hello and welcome to the Armenian News Network Groong Week in Review for April 13, 2025. Today, we're talking with Dr. Anna Karapetyan of the Insight Analytical Center for Applied Policy and Research in Yerevan. Welcome back, Anna. Nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Ողջույն, Anna.
So this past week, first ever drills, military drills, were held between the Armenian and Iranian militaries in what was described by them as a joint operation against a terrorist attack scenario against their common border. This is the Armenian-Iranian border in the south. Very little is known about these drills. They were not even announced until this past week, maybe a day before, I am not sure. And so we don't know the scope of the participation, the size of the military forces participating, the magnitude of and the scope of the operations. Anna, what's the significance of this military exercise, and what is the message that these two countries are sending to observers?
I think it's more political than some military message, because it's tough times in the region, taking into consideration the some threats of war non-stopping from Azerbaijan, and some claims about the so-called Zangezur corridor. And we know that Iran has a strong position on this issue, and it's announcing from time to time its position. Also, during the last months, we had some messages from Iran saying they are ready to have negotiations on some agreement of strategical cooperation with Armenia, also in the military sphere. And but as some non-official resources say that the government of Armenia is not interested in negotiating such agreement with Iran now, but Iran is now trying to have stronger positions in the region and in its neighborhood, and also this action also may be a signal of saying that Iran is strong and Iran is ready to protect its interests and the positions it had claimed before.
Okay. How has Baku reacted to this? Has it?
I haven't met in the media, honestly, any announcements connected to this. But I don't think that they will say officially they are against such actions, but they also listen to the messages coming from Iran. But at the same time, Azerbaijan and Iran are cooperating on the issue of having some roads connecting Azerbaijan to Nakhichevan by Iranian territory, and they are also cooperating in this issue. But this also shows that the interest of Azerbaijan in Zangezur corridor is not only some logistical, and it's more about politics, and it's more about having some control on the territory of Armenia. And everybody in the region understands that that's why Iran is repeating its position that the borders of the region cannot be changed, and the sovereignty of Armenia is very important for Iran, and it's a red line, etc., etc.
Right. How are Trump's policies towards Iran affecting its alignment and its red lines that you just mentioned regarding the borders with Armenia? Because, as you know, some possibly direct negotiations between Iran and the USA have started in Oman. But we are constantly hearing some really strong war rhetoric from Trump about Iran, about letting Israel lead the attacks and things like that. A little bit of global bullying, if you ask me. But how is this affecting Iran's policies towards its borders?
In general, Iran now is not at its best condition due to the situation in the Middle East and in Syria, the situation with Houthis, and in the Gaza sector, etc., etc. The global positions of Iran are not very strong now, and that's why US is continuously underlining that Iran is now weak, and we must use this situation in the negotiations to solve our problems with Iran and so on. And that's why I think these negotiations are, it's not, now it's very difficult to say, will these negotiations change anything in the US-Iran relations or in the region generally, because yes, they started to speak with each other, but every side has its conditions, and at this moment they seem far from each other, and it's difficult to say that yes, they will, as Trump says, in 2 months have an agreement on a new nuclear deal with Iran, etc. But at the same time, I think that now Iran is trying to, on one hand, to show that it's still strong and it has some interest in the region and it's going to protect its interest. And at the same time, Iran is showing some readiness to have dialogue and to have negotiations. And during the last year, we had a lot of Israel and US, with Israel, made a lot of steps to involve Iran in a direct war, but Iran made everything not to be involved in some war with Israel or with other forces who are backed by US. And I think in this situation also they are doing everything not to let an escalation and to show that they are ready to speak. There is no need to have some military escalation in the region.
Well, imagine you live in a village in Armenia. Imagine putting your kids to bed each night and only to hear gunfire crack through the silence. Imagine your child waking up crying, asking, are they shooting at us again? Imagine trying to stay calm, knowing there is nowhere to go. Now, border villages in Armenia don't have to imagine. This is their reality for a while now. And Azerbaijan fires across the border almost daily. And Armenian officials, you might ask, well, they say that the fire isn't targeted. They say that the Azeris are even shooting at each other and not at Armenians. But yesterday, the cultural center in Khanatsak was hit. And I could only imagine that during the day that center was being used by children. Also in Tavush, reportedly Azerbaijani troops came to the Armenian positions and simply asked them to withdraw. I mean, this is not verified, but this was reported by 168. So imagine reading all of this as an Armenian villager and wondering if your village is next. Anna, what does the claim that the Azerbaijani shooting is not targeted even mean? I mean, how can an Armenian military officer, let alone the chief of staff, say, or deputy chief of staff, I don't know who said that, but how can they even say that? And more generally, what is Azerbaijan's goal in this daily terror of Armenian borders?
We can also add to all the points you were mentioning to imagine that we can also imagine that the prime minister is coming to that villages and saying that don't be afraid, everything is okay, our legitimacy is our security guarantee, and everything is good, and we have no problem, and we'll have open borders, and we'll have some you will sell your goods to our neighbors and you'll be rich, etc., etc. It's the terrible reality.
Also, let's imagine that international observers, foreign diplomats are congratulating Armenia over this stupid, false peace deal without even mentioning this, without condemning this activity.
And let's just remember that days before the war of 2020, we had some very similar situation with Azerbaijani rhetoric, when Azerbaijan was every day saying that we have a right to start a war, we have a right to get our territories, and nobody in the world was answering him, and nobody was saying that you don't have such right, and it cannot be done. And as a result, we had situation that Azerbaijan tried what will be the reaction of international society, and there was no reaction, and Azerbaijan decided that it's okay to start a war against Artsakh. And today we have some very similar situation when Azerbaijan is announcing every day that there is some incidents on the borders, and Armenia is the one who is initiating these incidents, and Armenian government is every day saying that no, we have not done anything. Plus, they are saying no, there is nothing that can be dangerous for our people, and there is no problem, everything is okay, everybody are constructive, etc., etc. But as a result, in political dimension, Azerbaijan is giving this message to international society that I have a right to start a new conflict, a new war, a new escalation, because Armenia is not constructive and it is shooting on the borders, and these messages are every day going to media. And if you imagine that you are not an expert who is really reading the news and trying to understand what is happening, but you hear these messages coming from the region, you will have a situation that something there is going on, and Armenia is really wanting to. Armenia really wants some new conflict, and when something really starts, you will not blame Azerbaijan for the escalation. You will say maybe yes, they had the right to do it, or maybe Armenia was the one who started this new escalation. On the other hand, the society of Armenia is really living in this situation of having these strikes every day, and having the feeling of insecurity, and feeling that every day a new war can start, and government who is saying that the only way not to have a new war is to do everything that Azerbaijan wants us to be done and wants us to do. And if we don't do what Azerbaijan wants, we'll have a new war. You see what's going on the borders, or we are not speaking about what's going, but you see on news what's going on the borders. So we have a society who will be ready to listen to government and to say, yes, give them what they want, not to have a new war, and we'll have international society who thinks that maybe yes, Azerbaijan, not only Azerbaijan is the one who should be blamed for this new escalation in the region. That's what is going on.
I'd like a quick question, Anna, about the EU mission in Armenia, which has also said that there is no fire coming from Armenia. And so, in a sense, this is reinforcing Armenia's position that it is not initiating anything. Do you think this is part of the reason?
So at the same time, it's not saying anything. So it's saying, "Oh, we watched the Armenians, and there's no one shot." But it's not saying that we experienced shots from the Azerbaijani side, which they sure must have heard. Some
That's
of them.
right.
They're in those same areas.
It's an extremely political reading where they say, no, Armenia didn't do it, but obviously there are gunshots, and they don't say that Azerbaijan did it. But still, I have a question about whether this is one of the reasons why Azerbaijan does not want the EU mission in Armenia, because they are, regardless of the fact that they're not putting the blame on Azerbaijan, they are still reinforcing Armenia's position that it is not initiating any military actions.
The issue of EU mission is now also not very clear, because during a year or more than a year, we had a calm situation on the borders, and Armenia's government was saying that it's due to the EU mission, and we have this mission. That's why Azerbaijan is not shooting on the borders, and it's our security guarantee, etc., etc. But today we see that this security guarantee is not working because they are shooting, and this mission on our borders is not stopping them from shooting. And yes, Azerbaijan doesn't want to see this mission in the region because in case of a new escalation, maybe a new announcements will be done by this mission saying that, yes, we saw some shootings. But let's try to understand what will be next. Okay, what's the real mission of this mission? Yes, they see that Azerbaijan is shooting. And what's next? Who are they reporting about these shootings? And does anybody have any responsibility to do anything after having these reports, except making some announcements? And we all know that in any case of escalation in the region, in any case of war, we always have some announcements like we are urging the both sides of the conflict not to strike on each other, to negotiate on peace, etc., etc. Till today, nobody came and said, okay, Azerbaijan is shooting, it's bad, and we'll have some sanctions against Azerbaijan for new escalation in the region. So, okay, we have a mission that is saying that Armenia is not shooting at the moment. So, and what's next?
Right. You're absolutely right. I know that I interrupted you. If you wanted to, there was a point you were going to make.
I wanted to answer the question of why is Azerbaijan doing this? Because Azerbaijan has some new preconditions. It wants Armenia to meet these preconditions, and they are putting some pressure on government of Armenia by the use of threat of force, and saying that if you don't meet these preconditions, you will have a new war on the borders. And Armenian government is using the same tool against its society, saying that, you see, we don't have any other choice. We must do this. We must cancel the OSCE institutions connected to the Karabakh conflict. We must change our constitution. Tomorrow they will say that we must give this so-called Zangezur corridor, or as how they name it, like corridor with some special settings for Azerbaijan, and so on and so on. And this process will never end.
Right.
And this Azerbaijan sees that this tool is working, and that's why they are using it, because there is no one in the region or in general who is now trying to stop them, because Armenia's government is now trying to involve Turkey in this process and ask them to help stop Azerbaijan. But as a result, they have the officials of Turkey saying that Armenia must meet the preconditions of Azerbaijan in case they want everything to be good in the region.
Yeah, absolutely laughable. Now, all of those preconditions you just mentioned are not going to be said tomorrow or the day after or one day. They were said this past week, because while Armenian border residents were being terrorized, Ararat Mirzoyan, the foreign minister, was actually in Antalya, and he was attending the Antalya Diplomatic Forum over the past week. I think this was the third year that he was attending it in a row. The first year, there were a lot of questions about whether he should or not. Now it's become kind of a fait accompli that this government runs to Turkey as if the borders were open. So Mirzoyan and Azerbaijan's foreign minister, Ceyhun Bayramov, were on a panel discussion. I watched the video. They were together with Georgia's foreign minister as well. Azerbaijan clearly reiterated those preconditions: constitutional change, dissolution of the OSCE Minsk group, dropping of international lawsuits against each other. And maybe I have a little question about that one later. He was clear in articulating that Azerbaijan wants to codify at all levels of Armenia and Armenian society and law that there is no Artsakh, and that there will also not be parts of Armenia in the future. That's the impression that I was left with. What were your impressions and the key takeaways for you from Mirzoyan's attendance and these conversations with the other foreign ministers?
This was very difficult to be an Armenian and watch this panel discussion because, as you remember, we had such awful situation also in Munich when Pashinyan and Aliyev was having an open discussion in live discussing the Karabakh conflict, and now we had Mirzoyan and Bayramov discussing this situation. And after all that was done against Artsakh and against the people of Artsakh, ethnic cleansing of Artsakh, of having Armenians in the jails of Baku, having Armenian territories occupied by Baku, and these strikes on the border and war rhetoric from Azerbaijan, we had a panel discussion where Azerbaijan was putting some preconditions and blaming Armenia for not having signed the peace agreement. And we had the foreign minister of Armenia who was not speaking about all these issues and all these problems. We have all these unsolved issues about the rights of people of Artsakh, about the humanitarian, all the issues. And foreign minister of Armenia who was speaking about not to go to the past and not to try to understand who has killed whom in the region, but to think about our good future and live in a prosperous and peaceful region, etc., etc. And in this situation, he was one who was blamed for something and who was trying to say that no, you understood it not well, you are not saying the right thing, we don't want this, we are ready to meet your preconditions, we are ready to resolve the Minsk group, we are ready to do this, we are ready to do this. It was very, very difficult to watch all this discussion and to see that this is how, and to see again, we understand it when we see the results of these negotiations, but when you see by your eyes how they are speaking to each other and in which situation is the government of your country and how they are speaking with the other side, it's really very difficult, and it's even emotionally very difficult to watch this and to understand, and you understand why we are in this situation where we are now.
You're absolutely right. I have exactly the same impressions, and I have to admit that Bayramov was very articulate and came across very clearly and sounded rational. Meanwhile, to me, Mirzoyan just sounded completely on the defensive and as if the government has capitulated on the view that for the last 30 years, Armenians were the aggressors and we are at fault, and we have a lot to make up for the lack of trust between the people. It's as if this government has said that the ethnic cleansing that Armenians have been subjected to, we are not allowed to defend ourselves against ethnic cleansing. It's our lot in life, and we should submit to it. And Hovik, I'm sure you've watched this video. We'll put the link in the show notes, everyone. So please check that out. Hovik, do you have impressions?
So I couldn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch several clips, and I could just echo the same thing that Anna said. It was the leader of the foreign, your enemy, issuing demands, issuing talking down to your leaders and so-called leaders, I have to say, after all this, usurpers, if I can go even further, and I don't consider them my leaders, they're traitors to Armenia and to Armenians everywhere, but that's the situation we're in. And as Anna said, like after all that has happened, after all the diplomatic support that you have from the ICC, from the ICJ, things that you could lean on, you're acting like you're the violator here.
Yeah, they've put themselves in that position. Absolutely. And Anna, I noticed a little earlier that you had a long multi-second hesitation before saying peace agreement. We are in agreement with that hesitation. You can't do it without air quotes when you say peace agreement, whatever this agreement is, with lots of preconditions that Pashinyan is ready to sign. Every time I hear that this government says we are committed to peace, it is code word for me that they are ready to agree to the preconditions.
It's a capitulation treaty. And it's very difficult because no matter, even if we use air quotes, even if we use, afterwards we qualify it with all this like long statements that we're having right now, international listeners, I think, don't get the significance of how bullshit, how ridiculous this situation that we're in now is, where they're pretending to have a peace agreement. They are even demanding for us to change that virtual peace agreement, but we know that that agreement is not meant to be signed, and even if it's signed, it will never bring peace. And I think Armenians understand that 100%, but it's very difficult to explain it to international audiences.
I want to add just two things. The first one is that let's not forget how everybody are now congratulating Armenia and Azerbaijan on having some compromise on the text of the agreement, but let's not forget how it was done. Because till the last minute, Azerbaijan had some points in the agreement that Armenia's government was not okay with. It was one about the withdrawal of our cases from international courts, and the second one is about withdrawing of foreign forces from our borders. And Armenian side was negotiating on changing these points, etc., but they saw that it's not working. And Pashinyan announced that we decided to change our attitude towards these points and how we see these points in the agreement. It means that this was another point where they met the preconditions of Azerbaijan and took the points the way it were told by Azerbaijani side. And the second one was during the same forum in Antalya, there was another discussion where the representative of so-called Azerbaijani community of the representative of Western Azerbaijani community of Azerbaijan was present there. And he was saying there that a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan and a peace in the region is only possible if the Azerbaijanis will be allowed to return to Armenia. And this is a new precondition that is coming after as Armenian government will meet the two ones that are now on the table and Azerbaijan is speaking about.
Yeah.
Well, the Chinese have Sun Tzu writing The Art of War. I think Nikol Pashinyan, when he gets his so-called Nobel Peace Prize, he should write The Art of
Capitulation.
The Art of Capitulation, yes. And in it, there should be useful phrases. How do you rephrase, I'm capitulating, I'm handing over land with, I have learned how to re-envision my borders, something like that, sort of double speak.
I want to also note on putting double quotes around foreign forces, because I'm not sure if I consider guys with binoculars forces, unless they're going to hit me over the head with their binoculars. So back at home, Justice Minister Serbuy Galyan stated last week that the government is now fast-tracking changing the constitution, Anna. While Aliyev, of course, is threatening Armenia with new war. I'm putting the links in the show notes here. And there are daily border shootings. We talked a little bit about this also. What are these new realities that Pashinyan is constantly talking about, referencing, saying that the constitution needs to be changed? Actually, he wants to completely rewrite it from the ground up, referencing new realities. So the old constitutions, even in 2015, were written with old realities. What are these new realities?
As you remember, the process of changing the constitution started even before the war of 2020. They started They also started the campaign for referendum before even the coronavirus, and they had some internal political issues they were going to solve. It was connected with the constitutional court, and they wanted to solve this situation by changing constitution. But as you also remember, they then changed it by changing only the law and not the constitution. And now they are trying to say that we are continuing this process, and we, as we are in a new situation, we are writing a new constitution for our republic, and it's an internal issue. It's not connected with the preconditions of Azerbaijan and Turkey, etc. But everyone, of course, understands that the main issue is to change the constitution in the context of the regional developments, in the context of the preconditions of Azerbaijan and Turkey. And it's not only connected with Nagorno-Karabakh, but also with the genocide issue. And they will withdraw the points of references to our act of independence of Armenia, not to have any points in the constitution that may revoke the angriness or anxiety in Azerbaijan and in Turkey. And they will try to sell this as internal process or important point for peace in the region, etc., etc. But of course, we all understand that it's something that Azerbaijan now wants to do. And it's very important to understand why Azerbaijan wants us to change our constitution. And Bayramov was very honest during this discussion in Antalya when he said that we want all Armenian society to go and vote for a new referendum, for a new constitution, and to say that they don't want any so-called Azerbaijani territories. It means that Azerbaijan wants all Armenian society to go and say that, okay, Artsakh is Azerbaijan, and we will not ever speak about rights of Armenians of Artsakh, and there is no Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, no issue of Nagorno-Karabakh. Everything is okay. We are happy with the situation we have now in the region. They want all Armenian society to go and vote for this, because they understand very well that what they have now with the government of Pashinyan is not normal, and it will not be the same in any other government of Armenia. It's an historical chance for Azerbaijan to solve this issue once and forever, and they are trying to do this and not to let any new government of Armenia to come and say that what Pashinyan was doing was illegal, and we don't agree with it, and we are going to revise the peace agreement, the situation. We will again speak about rights of Armenians of Artsakh to return to their homes, and etc., etc. They want to solve these situations once and forever, and to close this issue forever.
I just want to quickly mention that Serdar Kilic was also in the Antalya Diplomatic Forum. And he did mention, actually, he threw a bone to the Pashinyan government by saying that the constitutional changes are a matter of internal politics for Armenia. And then he added that he is very confident that Pashinyan will make the changes demanded by them.
At first, he said that Armenia must change its constitution, and then he decided to comment and say that yes, it's an internal issue of Armenia.
So depending on whose media you read, if you read Armen Press, immediately they said they are leaving it to Armenia to make its own changes. If you look at other media, they're saying that they have reiterated their demands for changes in the constitution.
Yes.
And I would urge listeners to go to episode 423, which we had with Benjamin Pogosyan, who talked about how ridiculous or infeasible it is for Armenians to change the constitution, requiring 800 or, essentially 800,000 yes votes. So not only 25% of our entire Armenian population would have to go to a referendum that says, we're going to capitulate to Azerbaijan, but they would have to vote for it. And we have to take seriously that Azerbaijan has these threats. And at the same time, we have to take seriously that if there's a fair referendum, if there is no vote rigging, if there is no further explicit threats or violence against Armenian people, this will not go through. So I don't know what to expect, but it's not going to be good.
To be honest, even the discussion of this issue and putting it to referendum is already very awful, because we'll have society who will start to discuss, should we speak about rights of Armenians of Artsakh, or should we not speak about it? Is Artsakh Armenian, or is it a pain for not, let's not speak about that headache, not to have new problems? And this discourse is already awful.
Yeah, a dream come true for Aliyev. Armenians, this will never be signed. And meanwhile, while Armenians are pretending to go ahead with this, they're going to dishonor themselves even more with having these stupid discussions while they watch and laugh at us. So April is the month of remembrance of the Armenian genocide, when over 1.5 million Armenians were killed. And Western Armenia was essentially depopulated of Armenians. For many in the diaspora, this unrecognized genocide is deeply personal, including myself and Asbed as well, who are grandchildren of the survivors. And many Armenians, I'm sure you might have some relatives as well. I don't know of an Armenian who doesn't have some connections. But until the 2018 Velvet coup, Armenia was the leader of the diaspora in the global charge for recognition. That was the explicit policy of the Armenian government. But under Nikol Pashinyan, this legacy is crumbling. Shockingly, Armenia is no longer the bastion of recognition, but even worse, its own leadership is now aiding Turkey's denial narratives. Don't take our word for it. Read the Lemkin Institute's statement condemning Pashinyan's rhetoric. We have it in our show notes. But Anna, for you, our question is, are we saying something wrong? Would you disagree with the criticism that Pashinyan is essentially not only refusing to promote recognition of the genocide, but he's actually an active denier of the Armenian genocide? And as an active denier, he is complicit in the Armenian genocide.
Of course, I will agree, because let's just remember his interview with other Turkish media. He invited to Armenia. He was speaking that it's, or if I'm mistaken, no, it was in diaspora, if I'm not mistaken, it was in diaspora when he was speaking about let's understand how the genocide happened and who was the whose blame it was that genocide happened, and it's an issue to discuss how it happened, and etc. etc. And this is his policy of starting a discussion of issues that were the keystones of Armenian society, of our ideology of Armenians, and keystones that are connecting to each other all Armenians from diaspora, from Armenia and from Artsakh. And he's starting these discussions that are really very awful for society, because there arises people who say, oh, yes, he's right. There are people who say, what are you speaking about? And this is an awful thing when you start to speak about this and to discuss things that everybody knows where is the truth and what happened. And this is the policy of again, being very constructive in the region and not speaking about issues that will make Erdogan angry, because he wants to be friends with Erdogan, and he wants Erdogan to have some positive impact on the peace process with Azerbaijan, and to make Aliyev be constructive, not to start a new war, etc., etc. And that's why, if he wants some in the understanding of Pashinyan, having peace in the region and having normalization of relations with Turkey, it means denying the genocide and not speaking about the Armenian genocide and even blaming Armenians for being victims of genocide. This is the awful truth. And even Mirzoyan in Antalya, when he was speaking about let's not go back in 100 years and start to discuss who killed whom, it was also an episode of saying that today we are ready to forget about that issue and not speak about it because we want to live in peace. Because in the understanding of Pashinyan, having peace in the region, it means to forget everything that was done against you and to show that you are happy with the situation you have now. And this is really awful. And this is also one of the cases why he's now trying to keep diaspora far from Armenia. And he is speaking about this very directly when he says that our agendas are different, and his so-called real Armenia concept is about speaking only about the territory of Armenia and issues connected with the territory of Armenia, not our history, not about genocide, not about Artsakh, and not about issues that are today a real agenda for the diaspora. And that's why it means that only Armenia and ones who live in Armenia should speak about by the name of Armenia and about our agenda. And what is diaspora speaking? It's not our issue, and we don't have anything to do with this.
Two also interesting news came out this week. Despite Pashinyan government's retreat from the genocide recognition, there seems to be some stir in the global causes for this. In Australia, for instance, two state MPs, the first time in 18 years, talked about the Armenian genocide in their parliament and urged for its recognition. Meanwhile, also an op-ed in India's Sunday Guardian urged official recognition, signaling there might be some international momentum about this. I'm not sure, but how do you think this impacts Armenia's strategy? Because I don't see the diasporan organizations relenting in their cause for genocide recognition. It is their moral right, it is their legal right, and
it's fundamental to our identity.
Pashinyan is not cannot stop them. Exactly. And also one more question. Is being the mantle bearer for genocide recognition, actually, being the vanguard for Armenian genocide recognition, is that an asset or liability for a normal Armenian government? I'm not talking about traitors.
Let's not forget that April 24 is quite near, and that's why I think the issue of recognition of Armenian genocide and speaking about Armenian genocide is on agendas in different countries, and it's of course the result of the work of Armenian diaspora and in Australia and in today, unfortunately, everywhere where we see that in any country they are speaking about Armenian genocide, and not only genocide but also about the rights of people of Artsakh, or in general about Artsakh and Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. It's always about the result of the work of Armenian genocide organizations, people who are not looking to what today's government is doing, but they are doing what should be done. And that's why they work, and this is the result of their work. And it's very important to have this work because I hope very much that today's the government of Pashinyan will not last forever, and we'll have a normal government in coming years. And it's very important not to lose these agendas in the relations with different countries, and not to forget these issues in the agendas of different countries, because when we will have a normal government who will be interested in protecting our state and national interests, we'll need to consolidate all these resources and to again to awake the agendas that are very crucial for our interests. And these recognitions, these announcements, these processes, for example, the processes of the Commission of the Fundamental Rights of the People of Nagorno-Karabakh are rising, for example, in the parliament in Swiss or in Belgium. These are very important initiatives that are forming this agenda or keeping it actual, till we'll have a normal government that will take the coordination of these works in its hands and will foster this policy. And when we are speaking about, don't we have a fear that speaking about these issues will evoke aggression from Azerbaijan and Turkey? This is what Azerbaijan and Turkey want us to think. They want us not to speak about these issues because they will be angry and they will have a new point to speak about and to say that, look, Armenians are still revanchists, etc., etc. But it must not stop us from speaking about this, because if we don't speak about this, these agendas will be forgotten. And when we will decide that it's moment to speak about this, everyone will already say that, okay, it's not anymore actual, because we have some good dialogue between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and let's not have something that will make some negative steps in the context of this dialogue.
Yeah, they want us to negotiate from a position of fear and inferiority. Well,
yeah, Pashinyan's subtitle on the book will be "Our weakness is our greatest weapon." So.
No, he already announced his great idea that the security is in our hands. We are not secure because we don't have security in our head.
Genius.
Let's wrap up our topics here. It's time for me to ask each of you if there's something on your mind that you would like to share with our listeners. Hovik, maybe I'll go to you first.
Well, very quickly, we covered the Gyumri elections, the results, and all eyes are on Gyumri this week because essentially all of the opposition factions that won, they made statements supporting Vartan Ghukasyan, some holding their nose, many holding their nose, but I feel it was what needed to be done. But there still is a lot that the government can do. We talked about arrests, we talked about stealing people, coercing them to vote against their party. So on April 16 is the first meeting of the elected city council in Gyumri, and we will see what happens. They will vote on electing the new mayor, and if it all goes according to statements, then Vartan Ghukasyan will be the next mayor, but I am not so sure, and I would not bet on it, knowing Pashinyan's track record of hindering democracy and installing his own people on the government. One way or another, he will coerce this, or he will try to coerce this. So let's wait and see what happens.
Thank you. Anna, something on your mind?
Yes, I'll speak about something very personal, because today I got really frustrated with one issue and I want to share it with you. Today, my daughter is in the first grade, and today our teacher told us that on Wednesday they are going to celebrate the Citizens' Day. As you remember, it was in 2018, after the revolution, they decided that the first Saturday of the last Saturday of the April will be the so-called Citizens' Day, or the day of the citizen who made this revolution. And now they are making schools and children to celebrate this, and even celebrate before this day, but to show to the government they are celebrating it, and children are very happy with this situation. And I'm going to make a real scandal in our class connected with this issue.
Comrade Lenin and Mao would be very
I was just
proud.
going to say a page from the Soviet Union.
Yes, and it's really frustrating.
I usually don't have things to share, but as I was watching some of the videos from Antalya Diplomatic Forum, I especially don't like to watch videos of the current representatives of the Armenian government any more than I'd like to watch a murder of crows crowing from the treetops. But as I watched some of these videos, I felt how much of a position of weakness, how pathetic the representatives of Armenia are currently, and I was absolutely disgusted by what they represent and what they are trying to do. They're just basically, it feels to me like they are begging for peace at any cost, rather than negotiating anything for the real interests of Armenia. And it just came across to me that Pashinyan's so-called real Armenia is in reality tomorrow's Western Azerbaijan. All right. Well, on that cheery note, maybe we'll be done for the day. Thank you very much, Anna, for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It's always a great conversation with you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon. Okay, that was our Week in Review show, recorded on April 14, 2025. We've been talking with Dr. Anna Karapetyan, who is the director of the Insight Analytical Center for Applied Policy and Research. She has a PhD in political sciences and is a lecturer at the Russian Armenian University. For more information on any one of us, go to the episode notes, the show notes. That's at podcasts.groong.org/episode number.
And for those who have supported us financially, a big thank you. If you'd like to do that, you can go to podcast.groong.org/donate and learn how you can contribute to us financially via Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and a few other means that are detailed there. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you again. And we are reading all of your wonderful comments, even those calling me Baldy. Good job, thank you. But please continue commenting and sharing, and yeah, getting us visible on social media so that other people can find us. And especially a big favor for today, it'll just take 30 seconds of your time. Sign on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, whichever one you like. Just one of those if you'd like. And make sure to subscribe to us there and give us a rating. That would really be appreciated, and that will help us greatly.
Yeah, many people don't realize that we are actually a real podcast that you can find on your cell phone podcasts app, right? Most people think YouTube or Substack. We have a lot of readership there. You see thousands of views of the YouTube videos, but we also have hundreds of downloads on our podcasts, straight from, for example, your iPhone app or your on your Google apps. What is it on Android apps? Because Google stopped having podcasts, so I'm not sure exactly what app they use.
I think on Android, Spotify is the main platform.
Oh, okay, yeah, and we are on Spotify.
I'm not sure if you can download the Apple Podcasts app on Android. Maybe you could. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, unfortunately, I have to say that on YouTube we have been successful. We have like 10,000 subscribers. But we're, for whatever reason, we're not coming up. Like when someone searches for Armenian news or for Armenia, we're like the second or third, and we'd like to be the first so that more people can subscribe to us. And I think that you can do a lot to help us in there.
So leave some good reviews, or leave some bad reviews
or bad
if you
ones.
want.
It's
whatever.
Okay.
We're not telling you what to write. Write whatever you feel about the podcast, but do write. Put a review. Share. Like. Comment on our shows on Substack, on YouTube, on Twitter. We will be happy to continue the dialogue with you. Thank you very much, folks.
Muchas gracias. Շնորհակալություն. Bye-bye.
Arrivederci. Au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.